not too much to say about this race, Brandon, because not too much happened. Jake Finch led every lap, won the race, and there were zero lead changes throughout the whole thing at Talladega, which is pretty unfortunate for the fans. I don't know that I would quite put this race as far down as 2020 levels of unwatchable, but it was quite frustrating to see not much of any significance happen throughout this race. So I don't know how much of it you got to catch, but you think back to the great Daytona race we got in 2023. I think it's certainly possible for ARCA to have good races on super speedways, but I don't know. Do you think that a better package would help? Do you think that it's just a matter of bringing the field together a little bit, because there's certainly greater disparity between the top teams and the smaller teams in ARCA? How would you try to fix this problem? Because I don't think this is feasible long term to get races like this in Talladega.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always just stated the obvious that ARCA cars, they're just slow, but that seems to work really well when we go to Daytona Beach, though. You mentioned it. That was a great race early in February, but coming down to Talladega, it's kind of a different smell, isn't it? Kind of a different tune. And having Jake Finch have a Max Verstappen moment in ARCA is not really good for the sport, and it's not really good for Talladega. So how do you change the car that goes slow? I guess you bunch them in a pack a little better, level the playing field, which is very high, and then the highest of very high Venturini, and then the lowest of very low. How do you get that working in a way that is competitive and entertaining to watch? I do see Casey Campbell. I don't think the series sees this as a problem.
Well, I will be the first to admit, unlike certain other people on YouTube, I will be completely open about the fact that I had not talked to Charlie about this. I don't know. I did see his tweet though, and I do think he does have a point in terms of we can be thankful at least that almost everybody's going home with a clean race car. So the damage bill was certainly about as low as you could possibly hope for, and I do think that's good.
That is really good.
But I think there's a fine line and a balance that needs to be drawn here. Fans coming out to the track, buying a ticket, or investing their time watching it at home. It's just not a very good product on television to watch, or even at the racetrack to watch. And again, I am well aware that there's only so much you can do. Like, hate to throw him under the bus here, but the Brad Smiths of the world, and God bless him, he's out there doing his best with what he has. But I'm not saying we need to find a way to have so much speed in his car that he can compete with the Venturinis and Gibbses of the world here. But it is very frustrating to not see anybody if they're able to make a move. They certainly weren't willing to make a move there at the end, or work together to try to get a run on Jake Finch. And I'm sure Jake Finch was loving it. But I got to tell you, Andy Jankowiak, let's see if I can get back over on the second page of the results here. 27th place. Felt bad for him because I thought he had a shot at a really strong finish and strong day, as he did at Daytona. He had a mechanical issue towards the end of the race, ended up pulling into one of the access roads on the backstretch. And I want to be totally clear here. That was certainly the right move and the right thing to do for the integrity of the race. And 999 times out of 1,000, I would totally want, for a driver to do that so that we could see the race play out naturally and not be interrupted by a caution. But this was the one time where I was just like, would it really be the worst thing in the world if his car stopped on the backstretch and we had to throw a caution? So that just a possibility, the mere possibility that something might happen on a late restart here. Because again, I was at a track meet all day. I couldn't watch much of the race, but I caught what few highlights there were to put a highlight package together and tune in for the last 10 laps while we had a break in our action at the meet. And it's just I'm sorry. I don't think it was a great product. And I think that you can't look at that and tell me that, that's feasible long-term. It's for every time we go to Talladega to get a race like that, where there's not a single pass for the lead at a super speedway at Talladega. That'd be unheard of in, the Cup Series race or even the Xfinity race.
Yeah, there certainly is there has to be a give and take economically here. Like as as Casey mentions, like, yes, it was a great economic weekend to not tear up race cars and, have that sort of financial gain in the long term. But at the same time, you do need butts in the seats. And that's not going to help you get butts in the seats. So, next year's Talladega race, it might be a little more chaotic. We'll see what adjustments are made, or if no adjustments are made. But Jamie Little, bless her heart, having to try to hype up, can somebody pass Jake Finch? No. And they really did try to give a good run for it along the back straight there on the white flag. I mean, I say that they kind of tried. It didn't feel like they were really trying to mount up a takeover, but they really couldn't overtake him. Even getting up to the tri-oval, it was already said and done.
Yeah, and again, to Casey's point, I'm sure people will take this, and I've got to admit, it is better than the alternative of only 3 cars finishing the race because everybody else crashed out. I think Daytona was certainly, again, it's about finding that balance, because I have seen green flag finishes with a massive pack of cars in an ARCA race in Talladega. It can be done, believe it or not. I know they joke about ARCA breaks, they joke about all sorts of stuff with this series. I don't want to, say that the drivers are incapable of that or the series is incapable of that. They're not. They've done it. We can do both. Daytona, when Greg Van Alst won, I think is a perfect example of that. That we saw great racing, a very, very popular winner, and not a lot of torn up cars at the end of the day. We had some incidents here and there, but we never saw, the massive big accident that destroyed the entire field. It's possible, and I just wish that the frequency of getting a race result like that was a little bit more common than the alternative where we tear up so many race cars, or the other alternative in the other extreme where nothing really happens of much significance during the race.
And I can really tell you what happened that was different between here and Daytona in February. Is it just more space to spread out? I mean, they spent most of the time pretty much single file, did they not?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Again, maybe to Casey's point, maybe drivers decided, look, we need a race like this, and not to take as many risks. I don't know. I'm not an ARCA driver. I've interviewed a couple here and there. I haven't spoken to them, about what it's like to be behind the wheel of a race car at Talladega. I can't say from firsthand experience, but I would venture to guess that it's probably very similar to what you get at Daytona. And I don't think we had this problem, at least not nearly as bad to this extreme. And certainly not Daytona the year before this past February. So again, I understand that they'll take this, but I don't think that this can be sustainable going forward. Otherwise, it's going to be a very hard sell, not even just for tickets, to get people to watch these races. If the pole sitter is just going to pull a Max Verstappen and win, uninterrupted at a place like Talladega, I think that would be a shame.